What does it mean to change a name when that name has already become a legacy? That is the question now echoing across the world, after a revelation that arrived suddenly, almost quietly at first, before erupting into a wave of disbelief, curiosity, and emotion. A statement, simple in structure yet profound in implication, has taken center stage. Song Hye Kyo has reportedly chosen to redefine how she is known. To the world, to her audience, to history. The name that has carried decades of artistry, emotion, and identity now stands at the edge of transformation. Mrs. Lee. 2 words. Yet within them, an entire narrative begins to unfold. At first, it seemed impossible. A whisper, a rumor moving through digital spaces, repeated in fragments, questioned as quickly as it spread. But then, something shifted.
The tone changed.
The whispers became discussions. The discussions became headlines. And suddenly, what once felt improbable now demanded attention. Because a name is never just a name. It is memory. It is recognition. It is everything the world associates with a person's journey. For Song Hye Kyo, that journey has been nothing short of extraordinary. A name spoken across continents. A presence that has shaped stories, defined characters, and connected millions through moments of emotion that transcended language. And now, that name stands beside another.
Lee.
A connection that immediately draws attention to Lee Min-ho, a figure equally recognized, equally influential, equally embedded in the global imagination. But this is not just about association. It is about identity. Because to choose a name is to choose how you exist in the world. And to change it is to signal something deeper. Something intentional. Something that goes beyond surface-level perception. The announcement, subtle yet undeniable, did not come with elaborate explanation. No lengthy justification. No detailed narrative guiding the audience through the decision. Instead, it arrived with simplicity. And perhaps that is what made it so powerful. Because simplicity leaves space. Space for interpretation. Space for emotion. Space for the world to ask questions. Why now? What does it mean? Is this symbolic? Is it personal? Is it permanent? And within those questions, something else begins to emerge. A reflection on the meaning of names themselves. In many cultures, a name carries lineage, connection, belonging. It is both individual and collective. A representation of self, but also a bridge to something larger. So when someone at the level of Song Hye Kyo makes a decision like this, it resonates far beyond personal choice. It becomes cultural, emotional, symbolic. For some, the reaction is immediate and emotional. A sense of surprise, even resistance. Because the original name holds history. It holds familiarity. It represents a connection built over years of shared moments between artist and audience. To see it altered, even slightly, can feel like witnessing the closing of a chapter. For others, the reaction is different. Supportive, curious, understanding, because they see not a loss, but an evolution, a continuation of a story that is no longer confined to individual identity, but expanding into something shared. Something that includes partnership, union, and a different kind of narrative. And at the center of it all is Lee Min-ho. Not as a replacement, not as a defining force, but as part of the equation, part of the decision, part of the story that now unfolds in parallel with hers. There is something undeniably intimate about a name change. It is not a gesture made lightly. It is not an action taken without reflection. It carries weight. Not just in how it is perceived, but in how it is lived. Because beyond the headlines, beyond the reactions, beyond the conversations happening across platforms, there is a quieter reality, a personal one, where the meaning of that decision exists not in explanation, but in experience. Where the name is not just spoken, it is felt. It is used in moments that the world will never see, in conversations that will never be recorded, in spaces that exist beyond public view. And perhaps that is where the true significance lies. Not in the announcement itself, but in what it represents privately. A shift, a choice, a step into something new. As the world continues to react, to analyze, to interpret, one thing becomes clear. This is not just news. It is a moment that challenges perception, that invites reflection, that blurs the line between public identity and personal truth. Because in the end, a name is more than recognition. It is a declaration. And this declaration, whether temporary or lasting, whether symbolic or literal, carries with it a message that cannot be ignored. That identity is not fixed. That even the most established names can evolve. That behind every public figure is a private individual, capable of redefining themselves in ways the world may not immediately understand. So the question remains, is this the beginning of a new chapter? Or simply a glimpse into a deeper, more personal story unfolding behind the scenes? Because whatever the answer may be, one truth is certain. The world is watching, listening, waiting. And in that space between curiosity and understanding, the name, Mrs. Lee, continues to echo, not just as a title, but as a symbol of something changing, something unfolding, something that has only just begun. And yet, as the noise of the world grows louder, as opinions multiply and interpretations stretch in every direction, the deeper truth of this moment begins to settle into something far more profound than speculation. Because beyond the headlines, beyond the viral discussions, beyond the endless repetition of two words that now carry immense weight, there is a quieter transformation taking place. One that cannot be captured in a single announcement. One that cannot be fully understood from the outside. For Song Hye Kyo, the name is not merely a label. It is a lived experience. It is something that exists in the rhythm of daily life, in the private exchanges, in the subtle shifts that occur when identity begins to intertwine with something beyond the self. Mrs. Lee. It is spoken differently in private than it is in public. In public, it carries curiosity, weight, even disbelief. But in private, it carries warmth, familiarity, a sense of belonging that does not require explanation. And this is where the world often pauses, uncertain, because what is being witnessed is not just a change in name. It is a shift in narrative. For years, the identity of Song Hye Kyo has stood independently, powerfully, unmistakably her own. A name that needed no addition, no extension, no clarification. And yet now, that identity appears to expand. Not diminish. Not disappear. But evolve. To include. To reflect something shared. And within that evolution stands Lee Min-ho. Not as a shadow. Not as an override, but as a presence, a counterpart in a story that has gradually, almost quietly, been unfolding beneath the surface of public attention. The reactions continue. Some voices question the meaning. Others defend the choice. Some search for confirmation. Others simply observe, drawn to the emotional gravity of what this represents. Because whether confirmed in formal terms or not, the symbolism alone has already taken on a life of its own. Mrs. Lee is no longer just a phrase. It has become a narrative, a lens through which people interpret connection, commitment, and identity. But what remains most compelling is not the reaction of the world. It is the silence from within, the absence of over-explanation, the lack of urgency to define, to clarify, to correct. And in that silence, something powerful emerges. Confidence. Because only a decision that feels grounded, that feels real, can exist without the need for constant reinforcement. Only something true can remain steady while the world debates its meaning. And so, the story continues. Not in press releases. Not in carefully structured statements. But in moments. In the way a name is spoken softly in a room without cameras. In the way it appears in small, personal details that never reach the public eye. In the way identity shifts not through declaration, but through experience. For Lee Min-ho, this moment carries its own quiet weight. Because to witness someone choose to align their identity, even symbolically, with yours, is not something that can be measured or easily described. It is felt.
Deeply.
It creates a sense of responsibility, of connection, of shared direction. And yet, even that remains unspoken. Because the most meaningful shifts rarely announce themselves loudly. They unfold, gradually, naturally, inevitably. As time moves forward, the intensity of the initial reaction will soften. The headlines will change. New stories will emerge. But this moment will remain, not as noise, but as a marker. A point in time where something subtle, yet significant took place. Where identity and connection intersected in a way that invited the world to pause and reconsider what a name truly represents. Because in the end, this was never just about becoming Mrs. Lee. It was about the freedom to define oneself, to evolve, to choose what feels right, regardless of expectation. And perhaps that is the most enduring part of the story. Not the name itself, but the decision behind it. A decision that does not ask for approval. A decision that does not require validation. A decision that simply exists.
Steady.
Unapologetic.
Real.
So as the world continues to watch, to wonder, to interpret, one truth quietly settles beneath it all. Some transformations are not meant to be fully understood from the outside. They are meant to be lived. And somewhere, beyond the reach of speculation, beyond the echo of headlines, beyond the weight of public curiosity, that new identity continues to take shape. Not loudly, not dramatically, but with a quiet certainty that speaks louder than anything the world could ever say.